Welcome to the Massive Iron Channel. I'm Steve Shaw, Editorial Director at TigerFitness.com, Muscle and Bra Nutrition CEO. All right, guys, on Friday I made a video about Jason Blaha talking about warming up, basically saying that warm-up sets aren't really needed. And Jason came back and made a video about me, basically saying I had poor listening skills, etc. So I want to talk about that in this video. Before I do so, guys, if you have a question, you can check out the link below. Post your question, come straight to my inbox. The best questions I turn into videos just like this. So I watched Jason's entire video, and I was going to detail things point by point, but I didn't have time. So anyway, I made a video last Friday. You can check it out. It was my last video about how I thought Jason's advice on lifting heavy without warm-up sets was idiotic. I stand by this statement. Now, let's make something clear here. Lifting heavy doesn't mean a 1-rep max attempt. Okay, lifting heavy does not mean a 1-rep max attempt. Jason made it clear in his video, and I did listen to your video, Jason. We just simply disagree on this issue, but I am listening. You did mention the importance of the CNS and going for a new 1-rep max attempt. We both agree on that. Where we disagree is basically what is considered lifting heavy and what protocol should be used as you ramp up to 70, 80, 90% sets of your 1-rep max. I would never advise that somebody do 70, 80, 90% of the 1-rep max attempts cold without a warm-up set. If you're a beginning lifter and you're still working on form, there's no way I jump into those sets without doing proper warm-up sets. That's foolish. For the experienced lifter like me, whose deadlift is around 700-ish right now in my training, 90% of my 1-rep max is 630. 80% of 700 is 560. I'm not going to jump to 560 or 630 without warm-up sets. The weight feels heavy. That's because my CNS is not properly engaged. There's a protocol, a ramping that is required to properly stimulate your central nervous system so you do not get injured. Beyond that, warm-up sets also serve several other functions. You get to before you get under heavyweight, you get to assess where your body is for the day, what it feels capable of. If there's any lingering issues like hamstrings or glutes or whatever that might prevent you from lifting heavy. There's a lot of other variables other than just central nervous system when it comes to warming up. So I want to do a complete full assessment before I get into 80% or 90% of my bench, squat, or deadlift 1-rep max. I want to do a complete assessment. How am I feeling today? Do I have the energy? Does the weight feel heavy? Are my hamstrings okay? Are my shoulders okay? All that kind of good stuff. Because if something's a little bit off during those initial warm-up sets, I might dial things down, 2% or 5%, or I might not even do heavy doubles or triples for the day. So there are many layers and depths to why you should do a proper warm-up. Now, the definition of heavy, you mentioned in your video that, warming up for a new 1-rep max attempt, the importance of the CNS. We agree on that. Heavy for me is 70, 80, 90% of your 1-rep max, certainly when you're an experienced trainee and that weight starts to get heavy. I'm not going to do 80 or 90% of my bench, 80 or 90% of my squat, 80 or 90% of my deadlift without a proper warm-up protocol. It's idiotic. It's a good way for me to get injured. I would never do that. And I can tell you, as someone who has lifted, for 31 years now, I think that's probably the worst advice I've ever heard, and I stand by that opinion. Now, you also made the point that if you were fit or in shape or whatever, you could walk up to the bar cold, 90% of your 1-rep max and do it. Could I do that, Jason? Yes, absolutely. Do I think it's a good idea? No. Do I think it's probably the worst advice I've I've heard on the internet, it's sure in the top 3. I think that's awful advice. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. Just because you can do something doesn't mean it's a good idea. Let's make that differentiation. Just because you and Jamie Lewis say I could do 90% of my 1 rep max on a lift cold doesn't mean it's a good idea. And this is not a good idea. This is absolutely not a good idea. Warm-up serves several functions to engage your central nervous system with ramping sets, increments. I do 50, 60, 70 until I get up to whatever weight I'm working at. They allow you to assess where your energy level is at for the day, how heavy the weight feels for the day, how your body feels, different muscle groups that are involved with the lift for the day. They provide you with a complete scope of information that will prepare you for your heaviest sets. It also allows me to dial in my form as I ramp up, which is extremely important to any experienced lifter. It's extremely important for beginning lifters to mentally take their head into that proper space, get to that good spot where they're focused on their form. Start off with the bar and do that. So you're dialing in mentally your form. Okay, I missed this on my warm-up. I didn't stay tight here on my warm-up. I got to do this on my 50% set. Okay, on your 50% set, I missed this, I missed that. I forgot to keep my legs tight. I didn't properly grab the bar on squats. So then you dial it in on your 60 and your 70, and then you do your work. So a warm-up serves a myriad of functions. Getting your head in the game, central nervous system engagement, making assessments on your energy level, how heavy the weight feels, how the muscles involved in that lift feel. All these things are involved in a proper warm-up set. Now, can I just ignore all those and go to 90% of my 1 rep max and lift it? Yes. Is it a good idea? No. Could I do it? Yes. Is it idiotic? Yes. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. That is piss poor logic. So guys, hope this video has been of some help. If you have any questions or comments, check out the link below. If you've made it this far in this video and have yet to subscribe to my channel, please do. I'd appreciate the support. So guys, as always, thanks for watching. Have a great day. And do your fucking warm-ups. Just be a Philly guy. Don't.